Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to get started with the live stream here momentarily. We'll give it another minute or so for people to join us. All right, I see we have quite a few people joining the live stream. We're going to get started here in about 30 seconds. If you could smash the like before we get started, I would appreciate it. And just sit tight. We'll give it another half a minute or so for people to jump on. Welcome back on The Pursuit of Wealth, everybody. It's Rod with Pow Group. It is Thursday, May 11th. Hope you're well, as good as you can be. It's been a rough day in the market. Obviously, MJ stocks going up in smoke. We're going to discuss the safe banking hearing and update here today. Before we get to it, though, make sure to smash the like, help support me in the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. If you're new, you can subscribe. Tick the bell to be notified on any future videos or when I go live. Make sure to let us know where you're tuning in from as well. And again, stocks just absolutely taking a beating today in MJ land. The safe banking hearing, I did an update video on this yesterday. We were anticipating, some positive outcomes from this and potential upside in prices, but obviously we got the opposite. And generally, when most people are expecting a certain outcome, so a lot of people are asking me today, how come we're down so much? I'll give my thoughts and opinions on that in just a moment. But when most people are expecting things to go up, right? When most people are looking at this hearing as a positive thing, everybody and their dog was probably thinking prices were going to go up, and this is a good catalyst for the sector. And it's generally, watch MJ stocks be up like 10 or 15% tomorrow, right? It just doesn't really make any sense. And you, quite frankly, does the opposite of what we're going to expect, right? So when so many people are on one side of the fence, we usually get the opposite, but I think there's some other things that we're attributing to the weakness here today as well. Like I said, I did a video yesterday, Senate committee hearing tomorrow morning, and that started today at 9:45 a.m. Eastern time. I didn't actually get a chance to jump on. I had an allergy test that I had to go to, and that took quite a while. And I actually wasn't able to join the hearing, but I do have an update here for you. But before we jump into the update, if anybody did watch that live, please let me know your thoughts and opinions. What did you like? What did you take away that you liked, didn't like? Would love to hear from you. So as always, appreciate all the contributions to everybody who does let me know and comments and shares your opinion and thoughts. So I see we have quite a few people with us on the live stream. Welcome. We'll get into the Q&A here in just a moment here at the end of the live stream, but we'll go over a couple things as why I think the market was down today. So another issue was Jamie Dimon. So he warns that, and JP Morgan, they warn panic will overtake the markets as U.S. approaches the debt default. And I heard something, I think it was from Janet Yellen, I think it was either in June or July, that we could, if the U.S. doesn't raise the debt ceiling, we could potentially see the U.S. default on their debt. And just imagine if the United States went bankrupt, right? So, and a lot of people speculating that the Federal Reserve, this is probably the demise of the Federal Reserve, and that, with inflation and everything that's going on, right, raising interest rates, I think it's coming on the end of its life. And we could potentially see the Federal Reserve go away, and we could see a whole new system be birthed from that, right? Something a little bit more transparent. It's not even federal. It's not even owned by the government, right? It's a company. It's a private business that was created by 6 of the wealthiest families and bankers in the world, and there is no reserves, right? So it's kind of funny. The Federal Reserve, it's not federal, and there is no reserves. So, but yeah, I think that we could be seeing a complete revamping of that system. And this is not going to be good for the markets, right? But we know that some pretty much all of our broader markets, so crypto and stocks was down today. Not as, the S&P 500 wasn't as down as much as some of our individual names, but I think obviously this is definitely spooking the markets, and definitely with the higher risk assets, right, like MJ and crypto getting hit a little bit harder today. We'll just take a quick peek at crypto. Yeah, so crypto, a lot of crypto's down. Check that out. Yeah, 50, 15. A lot of the common theme was around 10%, between 5 and 10%. And then if we take a look at MJ stocks today, yeah, it was around the same, between 5 and 20% actually on the US side here. But we'll do a quick update here on the MJ Biz daily article. So again, I didn't join the hearing, so if anybody did join that, let me know what your key takeaways from that were, whether it be positive or negative. Again, I always love hearing your thoughts and opinions and hearing what the community has to say. But MJ Group's pleased with safe banking hearing as senators push for expungement. So that was something that they're really trying to forgive some of these past convictions and things like that, and war on drugs and people that were affected by that. But as a quick update here, we'll go through this. So MJ industry groups were heartened Thursday to hear bipartisan support from members of the U.S. Senate Banking Committee for MJ banking reform, particularly passage of the Secure and Fair and Enforcement Safe Banking Act. If lawmakers were to approve the safe banking legislation, federal banking regulators would be prohibited from punishing financial institutions that offer basic banking services to MJ business following state law. And just keep in mind, this isn't going to legalize MJ at the federal level. This is going to just bring potential uplisting to the NYSE and the NASDAQ. It's going to allow companies to do, get traditional financing, and then, they'll be able to operate and pay with credit cards and things like that. And they're not an all cash business, right? Which we know is very dangerous. So while the outlook for passage appears better than in previous years, industry officials and congressional watchers say that approval is far from assured. And we know that it's stalled many times in the Senate. It's been passed in the House several times, but the real hurdle is with the Senate. The hearing showcased thoughtful discussion from members on both sides of the aisle, with consensus among witnesses that the bill could go further to be most impactful, which should include providing broader access to financial services during committee markup. Sapira Galoob, Executive Director of Advocacy Group National MJ Roundtable, said in a statement, Senator Elizabeth Warren, which I'm not a big fan of, not to get political, but I know she's anti-crypto, but she doesn't seem to have an anti-MJ stance. So she says Massachusetts Democrat said that in the hearing that safe banking is long overdue. So golf clap for Elizabeth Warren. I never thought I would be liking anything that she had to say, but I agree with her in this instance. So she said she's also working on the descheduling of MJ. Go figure. Go away. That's progressiveness. Well, I love it. So Senator Steve Deans, a Republican from Montana, who introduced the legislation last month with Senator Jeff Merkley from Oregon, emphasized the safety risk of cash transactions in MJ businesses, which are vulnerable to burglaries. So that's obviously a big issue. And then also when they're treated as cash, you're getting charged fees, right? So when you go and you want to pay, let's say you don't have cash, you have to use an ATM in the store. That's going to charge you a fee on the ATM, and then your bank charges you a fee. It's like $5, right? Or if you just get them to pay with the credit card or with your debit card, which I did when I was in Colorado, they just treat it as an ATM transaction, and you still get the two fees, right? So it's essentially just like going to an ATM machine without going to an ATM machine. That definitely needs to change. And then obviously crime and burglaries and things like that is just unsafe for employees and things like that working in the MJ space. So support for SAFE. At the same time, Senate Majority Chuck Schumer, who's the leader, along with the Democratic colleagues, endorsed adding MJ expungement legislation to the safe banking measure. So we'll go through. I already covered this in my video from yesterday. Some of the key witnesses, but during the worker and small business focused hearing, Packer and OFSO shared with the committee how barriers to banking and financial services harm MJ employees in efforts to create equitable business opportunities. Workers who are paid in cash are vulnerable to theft, OFSO said, and some employees aren't able to show adequate proof of employment to qualify for mortgages or leases. Yeah, that's something, or can't secure loans, right? So that's something that I never even thought of. You need proof of employment, proof of income, and a lot of these, banking for mortgages, and even if you want to, just rent, a lot of landlords are asking for proof of income, right? So that's a good point. Never even thought of that. So giving MJ workers better banking service would give them better financial stability, no doubt. MJ workers do not deserve to be treated as criminals, OFSO said, and should not have to struggle with financial and legal ambiguity on the job. Packer urged Congress to push for more comprehensive reform beyond banking, which she said was the only way to adequately address the harms of federal prohibition. Definitely. Arguments against SAFE. So the not so good stuff, right? So Kevin Sabat, Sabat, I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Kevin S. Smart approaches to MJ chastised the committee for hearing the issue at all, arguing that there are more pressing issues such as opioids and teen mental health that the senator should be dealing with. Well, don't you know that MJ is a great alternative to opioid addiction and opioids? Man, give your head a shake. What's wrong with this guy? So Kevin Crazy, we'll call him Kevin Crazy, testified that SAFE would be ultimately hurt Americans by helping the industry, which he said is creating dangerous products. This bill would open up the MJ industry to Wall Street hedge fund managers. And again, this is probably why it's going to get passed, right? We know Wall Street runs the world. And Silicon Valley investors, and they run the world as well, who will create even more hazardous products to get them into the hands of even more Americans. Okay. Kevin Crazy, everybody. Charlie Batchel, the founder and chief executive officer of Chicago-based Cresco Labs, attended the hearing and lamented that operators weren't among the witnesses. Excuse me. 1 second. Sorry about that. I had to grab some water. In an interview with MJ Biz Daily, he urged the industry members to contact their local representatives and legislators and advocate for banking reform. I think today's testimony added, especially by Kat Packer, making the point to access to capital is really significant roadblock to achieving public safety, and a more diverse and inclusive industry is an important part we'd like to see included as they think about how to get it in its final form. So obviously, key takeaway here is there was progress, but more likely than ever before, this could potentially pass, and there's still some work to be done. So we'll see what comes of it. But essentially, the MJ industry just completely taking it on the chin today. You can see here, Ian Acreage, CNBC, True was down over 12% at one point, new all-time low. And if we take a look at the monthly chart here, so from the all-time high in February 2021 highs, we are now down over 90%, almost 91% from the high there. So again, the whole industry is taking it on the chin today. We had some green here on the US side, FIT, BAM, and BEV. But let's take a look at Canadian MJ. So CGC just barely closed over $1, but here we are. Who would have thought? CGC from $56 in February 2021 to $1 down over 98%. In 28 months, $56 down to $1. And it almost closed below $1 today, starting that timer, which would put it at risk of being delisted from the NASDAQ. So who would have thought? Canopy Growth now at risk of being delisted. Tilray and Sundial led the decline today, and then WIB, XTRX, and Love. Those were some. WIB was green, and then the rest were flat. But I did buy some CGC today off $1 psychological support, added to my position. I also added some OGI today. What was OGI at the end of the close there? OGI, there it is. It was only down 1% today. And I added some Oxley as well. And I did sell some Hexo, some more Hexo, and then bought some Tilray with the merger looming. But essentially today was like a 33% discount, meaning if you sold Hexo and bought Tilray, you'd get about 33% more shares than if you just waited till the conversion. So there was a huge discount today. I'm holding about 40% of my original Hexo shares before I started selling them off and before the merger news came out with Tilray acquiring Hexo. So that was my plan today, and that's what I did today. But yeah, I'm going to be looking to add some more U.S. names as well. As you can see, the whole industry just getting absolutely destroyed, and it's not one company, it's not one, particular, area. It's not the United States producers. It's not Canadian producers. It's not, just retailers. It's everything, right? Everything is taking it on the chin. And until we confirm monthly uptrends across the sector, we're just going to expect more of the same. And right now, things are getting dire, in dire need. We're getting pretty ugly out there. And, you just start to wonder how much more downside are we really going to see from here. But again, any minute we could come out with a decision on, rescheduling recommendations from HHS that could make its way to the DOJ, and then that could potentially get signed by Biden. And the safe banking. Again, I've been saying for a while now that I think the safe banking is going to go through first. We're going to get these companies uplisted to the NYSE and the Nasdaq, then Wall Street and Silicon Valley, like it mentioned in this article. Then they're going to have access, and then they're going to own the industry. And then once they're positioned, then they'll let the floodgates open, and then they'll start to push for reform, right? That's just the way things go. And, they'll lobby the U.S. government. And, we'll see all these big tech companies lobbying and, pharmaceutical companies, but only when they're ready, right? And especially once Wall Street, is positioned, right? Because nothing happens without JP Morgans and Morgan Stanleys and the Goldman Sachses of the world, right? So it's just the cold hard truth. And speaking of Jamie Dimon, like I said, warns panic will overtake markets as the U.S. approaches debt default. So things could get a lot worse before they get better, I'm afraid, my friends. And just prepare for all scenarios. Like I said yesterday, no one knows. But usually when most people think the price is going to go up in, leading up into a particular event such as this with the safe banking hearing, it's quite often the opposite, right? And the same thing and vice versa. When people are thinking it's going to be bad news, sometimes, prices end up going up, right? Because it's just usually the contrarian viewpoint. But like I said in yesterday's video, all we can do is prepare for up, down, and sideways and have a plan for all. And we just got to be patient. Things are going to take time. As we know, the United States political systems are slow, and especially the United States. But we know the United States are never first, they're never last. They'll leapfrog everybody else. And, they have the economy, the biggest economy in the world. And once they embrace this new industry in medicine of the future, it's going to be off to the races. And like I said, it'll be a heartbeat, and you'll miss it and you'll be gone. But like I said, just be grateful that you're here and experiencing this. I'm grateful that I'm, even alive at this point in time. It's only ever going to happen once. And just change your mindset. It's pretty brutal, pretty bleak out there today, but again, just tons of buying opportunity. And MSOS, I did a video on this one. It's getting close back down to $5 again. So like I said, not a bad idea to start scaling into this one. If you're looking for a swing trade or long-term entries, you can set a stop just below $5 and fairly low-risk trade. But rough day in MJ land today. Today was absolutely sick, and the sell-off makes no sense. There was nothing negative today except the time they were making us wait for the vote. Yeah, and I think a lot of it had to do with this, the fact that, the U.S. is still approaching its debt default, and that, the higher risk assets are taking, people don't want to hold these high risk assets if the U.S. is going to potentially default on its debt, and, markets are going to crumble. If the broader market falls, then generally, the higher risk, like MJ and crypto, those are going to get hit harder, right? Because of the fact that they're very high risk, right? So people don't want to hold those high risk assets going into, turmoil like that, especially with the potential of, just imagine the sentiment and the narrative if the U.S. were to default, right? And then, it could get a lot worse, unfortunately. So we just need to be aware of where we are. And I mean, MSOS still hasn't lost its low at 505 from last month, so it's not too bad, right? It could be a lot worse. Like I said, we were down double digits today, but essentially we're just giving back all the moves that we got from the last few days. And this is not, this isn't uncommon. So we have the low, high, higher, low, and higher high. We basically gave back that whole move, right, from the news that this hearing was going to be held. But we are starting weekly consolidation. So now we'll just be looking for a weekly higher low compared to 505, which doesn't give us a whole lot of room to form one. So it's not looking good from a technical perspective either. So again, just brace for more possible downside before we get out of this. But safe banking definitely seems to have some teeth this time around. And like I said, the fact that the fact that it keeps getting reintroduced and it's discussed, and the fact that Wall Street needs to get positioned in Silicon Valley, the fact that they're going to need to get positioned before any kind of reform, makes me think that we could potentially see it happen sooner than later. This market is corrupt at 100%. All markets are corrupt. JP Morgan has been fined billions of dollars, like fined to the tune of billions of dollars for manipulating gold and silver, right? Like spot markets. So if they're spoofing gold and silver orders and things like that on exchanges, then what makes you think that they're not manipulating an industry that's still federally illegal in the U.S.? Of course they are, right? They're every single thing that they touch, which is basically every single thing on the planet, is corrupt because they're corrupt, right? So it's manipulated. The market's rigged. We know this, right? It's a casino. The house always wins, and the house is the JP Morgans, right? And the politicians, right? We know that Nancy Pelosi made millions and millions of dollars, right? And her husband as well, trading Tesla and things like that. And these are literally people who are crafting laws. It's just, and again, that they're still not. We still haven't seen the Fed ban themselves at the peak of the previous all-time high from owning stocks, but now Congress is still yet to be banned, and there's a bill going through Congress right now that could potentially ban them from owning it at some point in the next 6 months or so. So that would put us into the end of the year around October, November. Watch for that to be a potential top indicator, and a lot of downside in the broader market could ensue after that. But yeah, until we get these politicians, until we get until the people at JP Morgan and things like that go to jail, until these politicians go to jail, this corruption and this manipulated these markets that are just unfair and unorderly, which is the exact opposite of what the SEC claims to do, it needs to stop, and it's probably not going to stop until people start going to jail, and that's just the cold hard truth in my opinion. I hope they come on and pass it. Yep, we all do. I think we're all right there with you on that one. MJ industry has been rough for 2 to 3 years. It is so tiring. Yeah, and a lot of people are getting just investor fatigue, right? I mean, like, look at this MSOS chart, right? This is an ETF that tracks all the major U.S. operators, and we are now down from the all-time high in February 2021 highs, now down over 91%, and that's pretty much the exact same as Trulieve, right? It's looks like the exact same, and it's now down like 90.8%. So yeah, almost 91%. So Trulieve and MSOS look basically identical, and that's not to be that's kind of to be expected because of the fact that Trulieve is one of the highest, one of the biggest companies in the U.S., right? So yeah, I mean, it sucks, but again, I know there's a lot of negativity out there. It's hard to be positive when the prices are going down, but I just look at this and I just can't believe how many opportunities there are out there. The trick's going to be to place your bets and be with a company that's going to be here in 5 to 10 years. So if we can figure out which companies are going to be here in 5 to 10 years, we'll do just fine, right? That's going to be the trick of it. But MSOS, a great opportunity for those in the U.S. that don't have access to these names on the OTC, and it's listed on a U.S. major exchange on the NYSE, so you're able to purchase that, right? So yeah. It is what it is, I'm afraid, but like I said, just change your mindset and look at this as a massive buying opportunity with so many catalysts still to come, right? We're still not even done the first inning yet in MJ, and yeah, lots of good times will be ahead, but again, the bad times may not be over here, at least in the short to medium term. All right, going to end it there. Again, if you're just viewing this after the fact and you joined the hearing today, if you were among one of those that attended, please let me know what you thought of that hearing overall, your key takeaways, whether it be positive or negative. Always love hearing from you. Again, I didn't get to join it. I had some appointments at an allergy test today, and didn't get the chance to review it yet. So gonna probably do another video here in the next couple of days, maybe tomorrow. We'll see what comes of it. Hopefully get some updates and things like that after today, and then leading into tomorrow. Tomorrow I have a little bit more time as well to do some digging. And again, if anybody does want to comment, let me know your thoughts and opinions. That would be greatly appreciated as well, and we will relay it with the rest of the community. All right, going to end it there. Hope you have a fantastic evening. It's Rod with Power Group. Thanks again for joining us on the Pursuit of Wealth. We'll see you on the next video.